How's it going today, squad? It's another wonderful day here on A Brodacious Life. It's a fantastic day because I've got Jason Hopkins with us. Jason Hopkins is a motivator and catalyst for cultural change within an organization. He believes that that connection to oneself, one's transparency, and one's passion to connect allows individuals to live wholly authentic, full life. Jason's mission is to advance human connection by embracing the connection of people who fought their hardships to show others that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, despite that what's at their darkest hour, worst thoughts that might take us, and that there is always hope for people to make connection. He currently serves as nonprofit president and CEO of the National Alliance of Mental Illness of Arapahoe and Douglas counties, and is the founder of the Connection Project, a for-profit company. Welcome to the show, John. How's it going today, man?
It's great. I'm glad to be here. How are you?
Man, I'm so blessed. So our mental health has been a huge push for us here in the last couple of weeks. I really just found it really deep to my soul. Last year, I was going through an insanely hard time. I was an executive chef at a Five Diamond hotel, and my mental state was just an absolute dumpster fire, like just dark thoughts, just anxiety. I was a zombie. I hated my life. And then over the last year, I've just made some huge, massive changes to be able to be here and be talking with you, Mr. Jason. So for those who've listened to our podcast, like we said, we've talked about mental health. We had an episode about, suicide, and, we want to just walk through these mental barriers that are out there for different groups. So are there any obstacles that face entrepreneurs in particular who are running their business?
That's a great question, Jonathan. And I really think that mental health is one of those conversations. To back up just a step and give a little bit of context. I think mental health is one of those things that historically we have always looked at as kind of an us versus them scenario. And the reality is, I think the narrative that is missing in these conversations is if you have a brain and part of your body, you have mental health, So
right.
From the starting foundation of recognizing that everybody has mental health, really it is where I jump into the conversation. And as part of having mental health, you can have poor mental health or you can have good mental health or any state in between, as you just vulnerably shared your own experience last year. There are ups and downs of life and that we all face them. Specifically to entrepreneurs, I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs and in my coaching business, and have recognized that really when people come to me with something that they're struggling with or having a problem with, normally what I recognize for most of them, they don't have a business problem, they have a personal problem. They have something that they're not doing or that they should be doing, or they have some habits that they've picked up along the way that are not great for them. And the erosion of those things and the buildup of those things over time can, of course, affect their mental health, which then impacts what they're doing in their business lives. Are they, taking the steps or the actions that they need to have a successful, thriving business? But by and large, you can kind of 9 times out of 10 tie it back to something that somebody is not doing in their own personal life that is showing up in their business life.
Amen. So what are some of those things that you see in, that they're facing?
I think it spans the gamut. I think it's the same for anyone. I mean, do you have habits that are not serving you well? Do you have addictions that perhaps you have not addressed that have become out of control? Are you in relationship, whether it's personal, friendship, etc., that are not serving you well, that may be holding you back? Are you distracted from things that really have taken your focus from the things that you need to be doing in your business? Are there tools or trainings that you need to be education that you need to be embarking on to help you continue to grow and evolve in your business? Any number of those things, one or a collection of them, can certainly lead or impact the results that you're getting in your life. And frankly, I have yet to meet anybody that can say there's nothing that stops them or holds them back on something in their life, entrepreneur or not.
Gotta say, the restaurants, we see a large gambit, kitchen cooks, they're kind of the misfits, if you will, of society. Sometimes they're, I've worked with everything from former, felons, basically, all the way to drug addicts, people going through different things. There's just lots of people with just bad mental health in the restaurant industry, and the industry does not help them.
Right.
It's actually, it's almost, I feel like it's designed to do the opposite. It's made to just pull you in, because I didn't smoke until I went to go work in restaurants. I didn't do drugs. I was a good kid. I maybe had one beer before I worked my first restaurant job.
Right.
And then everything's just like, come be with us, come be with us. And then the next thing you know, again, you've got this relationship with these people who are also going through these things, but none of you are working on bettering yourself or your mental capacity. So it's important to kind of, I guess, pivot a little bit. And that's kind of, one of the things that I've been encouraging people is, when you're inside of this little bubble and all of you are doing the same things, you're shotgun, you need to be working out, you need to be flexing your muscles, you need to be healthy. Are you just shotgunning Red Bulls all day and working on the line, then going and drinking beers till 3 a.m. just to wake up at 6 and be at work at 7? What are you doing to make mental changes and habit change in your life?
Well, I think you're spot on there. I mean, and that again is a reality for many of us. I mean, the habits that you bring to the workplace that you've embarked on at home or in your free time, those things can all extend into what you're doing in your professional life. And as you mentioned a minute ago, in the restaurant industry specifically, people coming in and kind of getting chewed up by the system. I mean, I think it's a form of a function thing, and I think it's really easy when you get into these environments to recognize, am I going to show up and be an example, or am I going to follow the pack? And I think that takes real discipline and wherewithal for somebody to say, hey, that's not the life that I want for myself. I mean, look, I think part of the challenge with the conversation around mental health that has historically struggled is, we don't want to see ourselves in a negative light, and to really heal or recover or resolve from things that we struggle with, you have to shine a light on those darkest parts of yourself. And frankly, many people are unwilling or scared or not interested in seeing what's kind of behind the curtain there. And I think that's a trap that keeps people stuck in this loop of,
Right.
Days turn to months, turn to years, turn to decades. And, those results will play out sometimes slowly or sometimes epically quickly in your life. And the fact of the matter is, it really is tied back to what are you willing to do about it?
I say you don't realize how quick the slope is. You're sitting there one day and you've got all these friends around you and you're living your best life and you see that everything's going on. And then what happens is the deeper you go down into this mental hole, the more you don't even realize you're doing it, but you're just driving a wedge between those people around you. And then what ends up happening is, well, I'm not making decisions to be with family or with friends that provide positive impact. And next thing you know, you've driven such a wedge that at a certain point you feel like you're just on this island that's over here and you feel like you can't do anything about it, but you don't realize it. It's kind of like being carried out by a rip current at the beach. You don't realize that you're way out into the coast until it's too late. And then you're trying to it feels like you're having to paddle forever to get back into it.
I think that that's true for many people. And I mean, again, if you could look at, like, let's use entrepreneurs as an example, like, many entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because they're good at something. They go into it, they're good at it, they have a passion for it, they do it, they make money, they sell their businesses, they grow their businesses, whatever the outcome that they're seeking, those things happen. But what you find is normally people who are really good at one thing, maybe for you, it's being a chef, we don't always give the same level of attention to other areas of our lives. So what happens when you back burner those things over time is that slope effect where things continue to erode. Relationships fail, friendships fall away. You may spend more money than you want. You may end up with unhealthy habits that you don't like. Those things don't happen in a day. I don't think we go from 0 to 60 when it comes to mental health for most of us in an instant. It happens over time. And frankly, if people are honest with themselves, it's fairly easy, if you want to get real about it, to look back and recognize, oh, I didn't do all of these things that might have supported me. And some people truly don't know what they needed to do to support themselves, which is another story. But, most of us, I think, have a barometer around this feels good or this doesn't feel good. And
Exactly.
from that understanding, it is easy to adapt or tailor make. What are the choices that you can make in your life that may have a positive benefit or impact for you and your family and your loved ones, etc., that can get you a life that looks more fulfilling?
I'll say you talk about knowing what feels good and what feels bad. My last couple of weeks, I have been on the road constantly. I spend about 4 days a week. And again, I cover a 2 state territory. So I can kind of be anywhere from Shreveport, Louisiana. And the next, 2 days, I could be down in Biloxi, then over to New Orleans. So I'm kind of all over the road. And what I found is that, well, I'm not able to go and I find great relaxation in just going for a good walk. I'm not good at running. I don't, people who run and enjoy running
I don't get
scare
it.
I'm like, that's a psychopath. I
I'll
can't
never be a runner.
do it. I appreciate their passion about doing it and people who are religious about it. I go for a good pace walk and I kind of mix in some jogging a little bit, but I'm a big boy. So jogging for these guys who go for like 5 mile runs, God bless you. I can't do it. But I've noticed that when I'm doing that and I'm going on that run or that pace walk and I'm sitting there and I don't normally carry a whole bunch of music or something with me. I'm kind of just in there in my thoughts. I feel so much better. Maybe not that first time I go out, but that second or third day that you've done it in a row, you feel good. You've
Right.
mentally thought through things. I've noticed that in the last couple of weeks when I've not been able to do that, my body language changes. My relationships change a little bit. My legs hurt a little bit more, which, puts you in that negative mood of, oh my gosh, my knees hurt, my legs hurt. I'm having an old man moment. You know, I feel better and I feel mentally better. I feel like I'm more on my game when I've had that. It's almost like a mix of like quiet time or meditation mixed with, a physical activity that gets the juices flowing. So it kind of provides that Zen moment for me to where I'm kind of working out my problems and what I've got going on at the same time, I'm, you know, physically working out my body in a way that's, obviously productive.
Sure. Yeah. You teed this up perfectly because I'm kind of a broken record about this. I think one of the challenges with mental health is people assume that, I'm struggling. I'm going to have to go to therapy. I'm going to have to get in a support group, or I'm going to have to take meds, or, and I'm not saying that you don't need all of those things, but as a starting point, I think many of us forget those self-empowerment tools that we have that we can take advantage of or access at any point that are free. Getting out, taking a walk, getting 15 minutes of sun on your head, focusing on what you're putting into your body. What's your nutrition like? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? Have you practiced gratitude? I mean, what are 3 things you're grateful for today? Like, any of those things or combination of those things will make a difference. Again, I'm not here to say those things will fix it, but by your own testimony a minute ago, you getting out and taking a walk, you feel better. And when you don't do it, you notice it. Like, I think those are the things, if we start to pay more attention to in our own lives, in our own bodies, and recognize you can make some subtle tweaks that may take 30 minutes or an hour out of your day. Even if you have a busy day, most people can find 30 minutes to carve out to take a walk around the block, get some sun on their head. It will shift your mood state. And in those moments, if you do it and you're not on your phone the whole time, or, drown it out with music, unless that's how you process, things will come up that will shift. And I always believe that, and this is kind of a metaphor, that, my perspective is the next right step. And literally getting out and taking a walk will reveal the next right step for you. It may make you recognize that you need to find somebody else to talk to, or, oh, your depression has got you in more of a hole than you know how to get out of, and you want to talk to a doctor about it. Like, I don't know, but I think that's the beautiful thing about the journey of mental health. Again, none of it's fun, none of it's ideal. But if you really tune in and listen to yourself, I mean, 9 times out of 10, your body will tell you what it is that it needs from you. And getting enough sleep, getting enough water, getting some exercise, like, I can't tell you,
Not
those things
shotgunning.
alone can make a huge difference in how you show up in your world.
I would say when I'm on the road, I'm drinking peace tea. They make those peach and raspberry teas in the gas stations. I'm shotgunning those. I might try to be good and have like some trail mix or something instead of a little Debbie. But when you're out on the road for 3 or 4 days, again, it's just I feel myself. I don't eat meals per se because I'm going to eat as I'm demoing out stuff. I might grab a bite with a customer because I don't want to feed them something necessarily and not look like I'm tasting it as well. So I'm like, oh, here, I'm poisoning you, so, I try to be active in that, but most of the stuff I serve is not healthy. So
Well,
I
and at the
feel
end of
the
the day,
difference.
that road
Again,
life
it's like
is
this
your life.
constant. Yeah.
That road life is your life. So, I mean, really for you, like if you like the Little Debbie's or the trail mix and you like that peach raspberry tea, what are the things that you could backfill with it? Could you, for one snack a day, could you drink some water and make a healthier choice? Like, again, I don't think we have to go all in on this. I think that's
Yeah.
what a
It
lot
doesn't
of
have to be
people
whole
do.
hog.
Yeah, we have to do everything and then we fail at it. Like, you may feel better if you drink more water and eat more trail mix than you do if you drink peach tea and Little Debbie's. And really, again, that's an opportunity for you to tune in with yourself, and your body will tell you. And if it doesn't tell you and you're not listening, but more importantly, what it will tell you later in life is disease and pain and inflammation and all of those sort of things that nobody likes.
Right.
But in your specific role where you're traveling around and you don't have a chance to sit down and eat, would you be better served to pack some snacks and take with you? And again, this is not an exercise on schooling you, but
no, hey, this is why, no joke, the original reason I started this particular podcast was me going through this stuff. I
right.
basically, I couldn't afford to go to therapy. So I
Yes.
basically have used this podcast over the last year to seek help. So don't feel like you're insulting me. You are not insulting me at all. That's why
Well, trust me,
I'm here to get better.
I can take my own advice here, and some days are better than others. But the thing that I have recognized fails a lot of us is, we're at the bottom of the staircase and we're looking at the top, and our goal is to get to the top of the staircase. Well, between you and me, let's just acknowledge you don't get up the staircase any way other than 1 or 2 steps at a time. I mean, you can take 2 if you want to extend your legs, but the fact of the matter is it is a process. So I think when you're looking at changes that you want to make in your life, especially if you're not in the best mental state, like, what is the thing that you can identify that's a next right step, just one that you're willing to do committedly and consistently? Those are the things that become habits. And, just like we build these bad habits, we have the ability to build good habits, and recognize that you only get up the staircase 1 step at a time. And if you do it committedly and consistently, you will achieve results. Like, I think we get so focused on doing everything at once that we forget that we need to go 1 step at a time.
Just 1 step.
I'm not saying you're not going to you're going to take all the steps to get up the staircase, but you're still only going to get up 1 step at a time. So figure out the steps that you're willing to take. If taking a walk 30 minutes a day is something that you can commit to and be consistent with, start there. You will have benefit from that. If drinking more water every day is the thing that that you can be committed and consistent to, do that. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to go on this super healthy diet and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get a trainer and I'm going to see it there. You don't have to do all that. I'm not saying you won't get there, and you may not need all of that, but you still should start
one day. Yeah, you got to start that first step for sure. Now, you have a teen talk podcast. I have teens, and their mental health is, it's a big importance to me. I want them to communicate their needs and be open about their mental and physical obstacles. I know teenagers might not be our normal listening category for our podcast, but many of us might have teenagers or soon will. What mental barriers are teenagers facing today, and what should we as parents be doing to help keep an eye on their status?
That's a great question, Jonathan. So there are many barriers that teens are facing today, and especially with what we've asked of them in the last 2.5 years. Collectively, I mean, they're struggling, and that is playing out statistically by and large. And I think we will see that continue to play out, over the course of the next decade in their lives and beyond. It's just, we asked a lot of our teens. I mean, we all went through a lot collectively,
right,
society, but our teens specifically. I think there's a couple of things. In my work with teens, one, I am so inspired by teens today and recognize they're going to change how we see mental health. But secondarily, I think that their definition of mental health looks different than the traditional one does. I think it includes more things. Teens seem to struggle with more things today that we might not have adapted to in our own lives when we were coming up as adults today. So recognizing that mental health for them is more fluid and includes more things. And I think that we have an obligation to better meet them where they are. If you're a parent, I think that's doing your best to put yourself in their shoes and asking them what they need from you or how you can better communicate with them. I have found teens will talk to you. I have had no problem getting teens to talk to me about some of the deepest, most vulnerable, intimate things in their lives. And really, am so humbled and grateful for that experience. But part of it is I think a lot of adults forget to ask the question, what do you need? How can I help you? And I think it's also okay to understand and call out that I don't understand technology the way that you do, or how this rules your life. Like, how is there a way for me to better support you with what you're dealing with? And I think what that forms is this sort of, intimate bond that feels more like allies trying to solve problems. And frankly, I think where a lot of parents get stuck is they either go all in and become helicopter parents, or they get completely detached. And I don't think either of those scenarios are ideal in parenting. And frankly, I think more honest conversations with your kids from a really authentic place,
Right.
it's something that will benefit everybody. I think your kids will trust you more. I think they'll talk to you more. And I think you'll learn something about them, and they'll teach you something that you never imagined you were going to get to learn. Now, you may not love what they teach you, but the reality is I have found kids are pretty open about talking about what they're struggling with.
The things that teenagers go through today is just wild. I would have never contemplated social media playing such an impact on people's, mental status, 20 years ago when, when I was in high school.
Right.
Now they go on these different apps and they see that I'm supposed to look this way and act this way. And well, this person's a YouTuber and they make all this money because they do crazy things on YouTube. And
Right.
I should be doing these things and I should look like that. And I should wear, this outfit and do these things. And it's, to come to them and be like, okay, yes, those people do those things. But is that how you want to be reflective to society? At the end of the day, what's going to be your passion? I try to focus on, especially when it comes to, my oldest is in college. My next one is a junior, in high school. And, he's trying to figure out, what he wants to do in life and where is he going to fit into this big wide world,
Right.
in a world of social media. And I could have never fathomed the idea of dating from an app. Like that whole concept just completely blows my mind. How's that person going to fit in? And it comes down to is, what do you turn off all social media? What do you want to do? What is going to make you feel happy? Because chasing these things aren't going to necessarily make you happy.
No. I mean, happiness is a choice. And I mean, it comes from within. But the reality is what you just laid out for us there, that's not just a youth problem, that's an adult problem too. Just differently, we've adapted to technology and social media to where youth have grown up with it. And I think it's an interesting phenomena that I call living your life by a highlight reel. So, you're scrolling on your phone and you see things that look perfect, that look like what you imagine your life should look like. So you start setting that as a standard for what your life should look like. And I think that sets up a lot of really, dangerous scenarios for us to go down paths that are not necessarily good for us. I think figuring out in life what your purpose and passion is a lifelong journey for many of us. I think for youth today, figuring out something that they're good at and that they are committed and consistent to doing, and figuring out where that goes is a starting point. But I don't know that technology and social media, while we may think it is a connection, I think it's an implied connection. And the reality is there is no connection for face-to-face, meeting with your friends, going out and doing something. But there is a real need to detach from what I think a lot of people are invested in today, that just, it's dangerous. And I really feel for kids today, because I think the standards that they set for themselves are so high and they're really not even realistic.
Well, you have to explain to them that
like a highlight reel.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, and I try talking to, my son about, there's all these famous YouTubers and video gamers that are out there, from, Mr. Beast to Tim the Tap Man and all these different guys that do video games. And I watch those reels too, and they're a lot of fun. Yes, they're making millions of dollars playing video games, and that's super cool. Great for them. I was like, but what you don't see is the 15 years that it took to build up to that. You don't see all of the struggle that goes into that. You're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of the struggle that it took to get to the top of that peak.
Correct. I mean, and the reality is that when you look at, we have nearly 8 billion people on this planet, and we have a handful of people that rise to that level of success. I mean, I think there's a reality check of not everybody is meant to do that. Like, I'm not wanting to squash anybody's dreams, but I think you're spot on in the fact of the matter that there is something that goes into building anything, whether it's a business, a social media presence, a podcast. I mean, you can do the best podcast that there ever was. It doesn't mean anybody's going to listen to it.
Exactly.
And what goes into doing this. You had another podcast before this one. And the reality is while you may make it look easy, there are some technical skills that go into this. And if you don't have them, you have to find people that can help you to do those things. But anything that looks easy normally has a lot of training and a lot of skill and a lot of backstory to it that we jump into in a moment and don't realize that you don't just start from here and get to 100, in 3 months.
I always tell people, are you willing to do that for a hobby for 15 years before, and treat it as a full-time job, but technically be a hobby, be free. Like the podcast, I don't make money at all from this podcast. This is something that I know realistically, I won't have the listenership, to do sponsorships and all that stuff for many years. And I'm fine with that.
Right.
I just enjoy podcasting. And if I make some money off of it, fantastic. You got to be passionate about something that you're willing to do so hard that if you don't make money on it, you're still willing to do it and have fun and do it 3 or 4 times a week and still enjoy life. And to me, that's how you kind of start to develop that into a career. And maybe you do work, maybe a job that's not what you intend to do full time, but it's something that, long term you can develop over into this dream career.
Sure. And I think that is really great information. I mean, for me, it's the same thing. I mean, a lot of what I've done is built upon the back of helping others, and really knowing that filled my cup, turned into being able to do that in a more professional way. But I think, again, the trap for many of us is going into something and thinking that we're going to start it and it's just going to become an immediate success. And really, that's just not how life works. And if you get really realistic about how many people make a success out of this profession or that profession, I mean, it's a handful of those nearly 8 billion people that are able to do that. And I'm not here to squash anybody's dreams, but I think before somebody embarks in something, they do need to be asking those questions. Is this something that you're willing to put the work, the effort, and the energy into for a long period of time to see it come to fruition? And if you can't say resoundingly yes, it's probably not your thing. I think the social media and technology makes a lot of things look easy. And if I look at people, and this goes back to mental health also, I think we have become a shortcut society. And I don't think that there are really any shortcuts to getting what you want. And again, there are unique circumstances where people have windfalls or something happens that changes their life in an instant. And I think that can happen for anybody. But that is normally built upon the backs of committed, consistent work over a period of time, and recognizing that and building your life with a solid foundation, with tools that support you for the ups and downs. That's something nobody's ever going to be able to take away from you, regardless of how you show up, regardless of what you want to do, regardless of what your next business is. Like, those are the things that really, I think, strengthen us into solid, stable people. What are those things that are kind of your core things that bring you back to yourself and keep you rooted and grounded on your solid foundation? Like that's gold.
That is. So Jason, you've worked with hundreds of people going through mental illness. As you said, part of what you do is talk about success of others who are going through mental obstacles. I was wanting to know if you can give us, give us some inspiration by telling us, someone's struggle that inspired you.
I see it all the time, but let me just share a little bit of personal story. So I came to this work through my own mental breakdown. I used to have a really successful real estate business. The economy crashed in '08, and really that was not what took me down. It was kind of my own arrogance and not changing my lifestyle. And that played out over the course of the next few years, and really went through a series of setbacks that just sort of eroded that foundation that I thought was strong that really wasn't. And most men who came from the world that I came from probably would have ended their lives. And I had a mustard seed of faith, and don't get me wrong, considered ending my own life for at least a year of my journey, and just recognized that if I made it out of this, I was going to show up and serve other people. So for me, the people that inspire me are the people who, even through abject failure, through extreme loss, considerable pain, are willing to show up and get back on the horse or keep walking down the road. Like, that to me is inspiration. Like, it's not, did you make $1 million this year, or do you have the trophy partner, or have you achieved or excelled at everything that you ever set out to do? Like, those things are great, and I want people to have those things, but really the person who can rebuild their life from hell and begin again and still show up in faith and confidence and passion to really realize that this life is a gift, like, man, that inspires me. And I try to be a humble servant of that lesson, because I know what it is like to be at the very bottom of the barrel and see no light, and really know that it is a conscious choice to say, I am going to show up and I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to move forward and keep going. Like,
Wow.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I love that, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You know,
Absolutely.
this is obviously, a strong passion for you. You just talked about your story, and that's, you know, different circumstances, but I was in the same boat last year. Like, I was just in this super dark place. I kept thinking about going into that other side of the realm,
Right.
and, I hate to even, it's dark to even mention that you went that far down the rabbit hole. So first off, thank you for being brave and talking about that story and, your background, because it's not easy. Again, it's for us. I think for men in particular, we really struggle with this idea of talking about this, how we feel kind of thing. And it's, oh man, well, that's silly. That's not what men do. We grunt it out, and we're supposed to, nail hammers and do manly stuff. And it's like,
Right.
no, we kind of need to focus on, making sure that we're not killing ourselves. That's, are we providing a good mental frame to where we're going to be mentally healthy till I'm well into my 90s, and hopefully, I'd love to be here till 100. I had 2 family members make it all the way into the upper 90s, and I've had 2 make it into the hundreds. So I'm
Awesome.
hoping to get there. So you talked about how you just got into mental health, and your story. What resources do you have available for people who are needing more help?
That's a great question. So, I am the president CEO of an organization called the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I serve an affiliate in Colorado, which is the largest affiliate membership wise in the state of Colorado. Our website is namiadco.org, namiadco.org. But the National Alliance on Mental Illness is a national organization, and they can be found at NAMI.org. There are a myriad of resources, and I don't care if you're struggling with mental health, substance use and abuse disorders. Of course, we've got 9888, which is our suicide and crisis lifeline. If you're struggling, reach out. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that the goal is for all of us to sit in our feelings 24/7. But the reality is there are things that happen in life that set us back, that we don't show up in a way that feels aligned with what we know we're meant to be doing or meant for. There are people that can help you. And sometimes you can find the kindness of a stranger or having a conversation like this that can put you on a completely different course in your life. But what I do know is that whatever lives in the dark cannot be seen. So your willingness to show up and share with somebody, even if it's a stranger, that you're struggling, and then to be able to receive, what comes next, I think is a really foundational part of the journey. And So many of us get stuck in our own heads and recognize that, I'm the only person that's been through this. Nobody will understand. And I guarantee you, and I've done this work for a long time, you are not alone. And there is always somebody that has it worse than you. And I swear, if you'll talk about it with somebody, and again, it should be somebody that is qualified to meet you where you are typically, you'll have a completely different experience, and you'll ask yourself, why did I wait so long?
Jason, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation.
Thank
Thank you so much for hanging out with us and having this tough conversation and being open about, the struggles that you've had. And it's just an honor to have, fellow men who come on here and when we talk about something that's very difficult for many men to talk about. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. And, again, is there anywhere where they can reach you individually? Are you on LinkedIn or any social media?
I am. You can find me LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Jason Hopcus is my handle name. My organization is Connection Project Ltd. On any of those for Connection Project Limited. I put a lot of content out. I'm on a lot of podcasts, and we'll take this podcast and turn it into 10 different clips that we'll pull out, so you can always get some sort of inspiring soundbite if you're looking for it. But I appreciate the opportunity, Jonathan. And I just want to underscore, we just had a vulnerable, real conversation as people who have never met before. And we're going to walk away from this with a full cup.
Yeah.
And that to me is the power of just being able to show up and connect with somebody, even if you don't feel like it. Something will be revealed. There will be fruit. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm infinitely grateful to you for the time.
It's our pleasure. So again, people, make sure you come out, you're supporting and help those around you, and keep an open ear out for your friends and family that are around you. Thank you, Jason. And we'll catch you next time on A Brodacious Life.